Don't mind me, I just woke up not too long ago. And much like what most people do when they wake up, I immediately opened Twitter and, well, I completely regret how I started my Easter Sunday. And yes, happy Easter to all of you guys that celebrate it, and even if you don't celebrate it, use it as a day to hang out with your family and get some drinks. Because today we're going to be talking about why Vicious Syndicate has apparently ruined Hearthstone yet again. I always find it hilarious whenever a post like this actually resurfaces because it keeps highlighting the same problem that I keep bringing up within Hearthstone, but we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Now, what exactly are we going to be looking at today? This was the very first thing that I actually looked at when I woke up this morning. It is a Reddit post that honestly has 0 upvotes right now, called Vicious Syndicate has ruined this game if you play it even remotely competitively or care about your rank. And the only reason why I'm even talking about this is because I just made a video, one of my most successful videos that's not just gameplay actually, talking about why I quit competitive Hearthstone. And honestly, I just wanted to read this post, kind of go through it a little bit, because I believe there are some legitimate things in this post whenever it comes to, man, I really don't like competitive meta Hearthstone, but there are also some other things that are happening in this post that the user is just kind of brushing off, and they're doing this in order to make sure that oh, it's not my fault that I lost the game, it's other people's fault. And I believe that is a really big mistake to do in Hearthstone, because you have to the only way to get better at this game is to fix your own mistakes. You can't fix whatever your opponent does. You can't fix their luck. You can't fix whatever draws or plays they're gonna make. The only way you get better at Hearthstone is focusing on the variables that you have control over. But let's go ahead and start reading the post and figuring out what exactly this person is upset about. Prepare the downvotes, I guess, but their reports and meta-analysis has completely ruined this game for me personally. It's fine if you guys like it, you guys want them to run the numbers in Theorycraft and tell you all what to play, that's alright. But to me personally, the meta gets solved within 3 days until the nerfs come, and then the meta is solved again because they drop their first report. So already in the first paragraph, this person is incorrect. The meta does not get solved within 3 days. That is absolutely not how Hearthstone metas evolve, especially considering how a yearly rotation happens. What happened with Handbuff Paladin is that it was the first very powerful deck that we figured out, and then the challenge was, is there any other powerful decks that can do the same thing without completely changing your deck around in order to counter it? And honestly, as we kept playing, we figured out very, very quickly, not in 3 days though, that the meta was going to be warped around Handbuff Paladin, not because of how good it was at top legend, but because of how good it was within every single other rank in Hearthstone. And in my opinion, that is not a balance or an issue with Paladin itself. It is an issue with people only being able to play a couple decks at a time because of budget restraints. Most of the people just want to figure out the best deck in the game because they only have so much dust in order to spend onto a deck. So rather than making, these really stupid decisions and investing their dust in all these classes that don't have synergy together, some people just wait for the best deck to emerge, spend all their dust on it, and then that's the one Hearthstone deck they get to play somewhat competitively until they start building up those resources, because you need to win games in order to get resources. That's just the simple fact if you're someone that doesn't care about ranks. Now, if you do care about ranks, you're obviously going to be playing the best deck in order to climb up with it. But when people figured out that Handbuff Paladin was good, like me in particular, I took every effort to try and counter it. I countered it with Rainbow DK, and it was a legitimate counter to the deck because Quartzite Crusher is a very good tool against weapon-based decks, and Handbuff Paladin is a weapon-based deck. Were there times that I still lost to it? Yes, of course, but that's just what Hearthstone is. But the point that I'm trying to make, metas don't get solved in 3 days. They just don't, because there's plenty of decks that emerge, and there were a lot of archetypes like Shopper Demon Hunter that did pop through, but unfortunately, because of the Paladin matchups every now and again, especially at the lower ranks, it felt like Handbuff Paladin was the biggest threat, to where Blizzard didn't even think about addressing Demon Hunter for a couple of reasons. So whatever those reasons are, maybe it's because they didn't have enough data in order to figure out how to nerf it entirely. What I'm mostly upset about is the fact that we have this Demon Hunter deck that's just so good that is ruling everything else, but the same thing is starting to happen already now we've had a couple of days in the meta. People are starting to counter it, and now the big question is, does it only lose to its massive counters? Everybody was playing Paladin because Vicious Syndicate said it was the best. Then everyone is playing Demon Hunter because Vicious Syndicate said that it was the best in their last report. I know Demon Hunter will get nerfed. My problem is that due to Vicious Syndicate mentioning how busted Demon Hunter is in their last report, everybody flocks to play it because they want to win. The meta is solved and analyzed and refined way too quickly for the amount of cards we get per set. I don't even blame the devs for this game. It's not Team 5's fault. Vicious Syndicate makes this game a slog to play. So here they are doubling down on this meta gets solved way too quickly, like in 3 days. And honestly, I will say this. I do agree that Hearthstone metas get solved way quickly, but that's because we have so many different people doing meta reports. It's not like it's just Vicious Syndicate that's responsible for this. We have plenty of data websites like Hearthstone Top Decks, HS Replay, Vicious Syndicate. There's a bunch of applications like Hearthstone Deck Tracker and Firestone that you can pull data from. There's lots of different reports out there, and there's, podcasts, there's streamers. There is a lot of information for something like card games, and when you have 11 classes in one game, several archetypes and several cards to experiment with, there is no single way that one person is going to be able to play enough Hearthstone in order to get an idea of what the meta is. And honestly, the way that I see these kind of websites is that they are doing us a service in one of two ways. Number one, they're giving us the archetypes to play, because they're telling us what synergies can work based on what the data is telling us, but they're also giving us ideas on what to play and giving us more of a spectrum of how these decks can perform, because we can see what the numbers are saying. Like Hero Power Druid. Hero Power Druid has so many deck lists that I've seen, but unfortunately, it's really hard to come up with the best deck because Druid is in a very awkward spot. But when you see like 8 different decks for Hero Power Druid and they all have like a 40% win rate, you can kind of make a safe assumption that yes, people are testing out an archetype, but the archetype itself is just not successful. But you would not know this unless you have seen the data, or unless you yourself have played 8 different versions of Hero Power Druid with at least a couple of games, at least like 10 to like 50 games, depending on how much you're really trying to test it. And then you get to actually see how good the deck is. I really do believe that these kind of opinions are formed by people that play a deck for like, 2 to 5 games, immediately make an opinion about it, or they see it so often on ladder that they just automatically think it's the best thing in the game. And that second option, I can kind of understand people's, oh, why do I only see Demon Hunter? I hate the fact that I only see Demon Hunter. I hate the fact that I only see Demon Hunter 2 at my ranks. But the simple issue is, if we're talking about competitive Hearthstone, Demon Hunter is actually not on top right now. And we'll go ahead and put a bookmark on the Demon Hunter isn't on top right now, because I have community reactions that I want to show you guys. But first, let's go ahead and get through this Reddit post. I know this isn't an airport. I've heard the jokes. I don't need to announce my departure. Frankly speaking, I think Vicious Syndicate is toxic for this game, because without them, it would take far longer for metas to actually develop. People would have to look through the decks on HS Replay or whatever site, and the data wouldn't be analyzed so fast. There would be more incentive for people to play the cards that they open, or find a deck they like with a decent win rate, and slam some more games for a couple of weeks as things develop. Sure, there is always going to be the number one deck, but that's not my issue. Things are solved too fast now. Well, I mean, you kind of just contradicted your own statement by just being like, wait, there are other data websites out there. I mean, your problem specifically is with Vicious Syndicate because they are analyzing the data and telling you what to do with it. Like, that seems to be the issue that I'm observing here, because with HS Replay, they do have like articles every now and again, but they're not nearly as common as Vicious Syndicate meta reports. And so what this person apparently is telling me is that they don't mind data when they get to look at the numbers, but they don't like it when someone's like, by the way, this is the best deck, it's not even close, and if Blizzard doesn't nerf it, then we're gonna have balance problems. I think that's really the issue here, is that they don't like the idea of Vicious Syndicate specifically telling people what to play, versus HS Replay being like, oh, hey, Paladin's the number one deck, why aren't you playing Paladin? And that's a very simple-minded approach to Hearthstone, because again, sometimes the best class on, most of the time, the best class on HS Replay is not about the best deck in the game. It's actually the easiest deck in the game that wins at the lowest ranks, like Paladin. Paladin's always on top because it crushes every other rank that isn't Legend. So it's just like, I feel like this person's problem is not with Vicious Syndicate specifically, but it's the fact that Vicious Syndicate has all of these articles that have these specific decks that they optimize, and they're not just pulling from data from what people are actually playing. They go the extra step and they look at the archetype and then they optimize it with the data that they have. And most of the time, Vicious Syndicate is very on top of it. And I'm actually going to go ahead and argue the opposite, that if the meta wasn't quote unquote solved so quickly, then we wouldn't have all of these archetypes to be able to experiment with. I 100% agree with this statement that I'm about to say out loud, that HS Replay and data websites actually do a service and do better for Hearthstone because they give us more options to look at. And if you're really trying to do something that isn't just play ladder and grinding the ranks, then you have so many more options to play Hearthstone decks right now if you actually have the resources to make them. And again, one of the biggest problems in Hearthstone right now is that people have to play the best deck. This is more of a budget restraint than it is a meta balance problem, in my personal opinion. Nobody knows how to have fun anymore unless it involves searching best Hearthstone deck rank 1 legend. Well, honestly, you should just go to Clark HELLSCREAM YouTube and then you know what the best decks are. So this guy's already incorrect. And then copy pasting the deck code in. This wasn't much of a problem before Vicious Syndicate because even the best decks weren't super refined right out the gate. You have decks being refined within a few days now, and everybody knows how to check Vicious Syndicate for decks and meta-analysis. This leads to 2 problems. 1, you have valid complaints about the game, the meta. You go to Reddit and complain. People link the latest Vicious Syndicate report and tell you you're wrong, and then copy pasta whatever Zacho says without actually thinking about whether or not it's good for the game. It's like Zacho is some appointed game master for Hearthstone or something. Number 2, you play the game and you get to enjoy queuing against the exact same 3 decks over and over. I mean, you could go ahead and end this vicious cycle by just not doing step 2 and just not complaining on Reddit. I hate to say it, but it's like, the complaints sometimes are very justified, but if all you're going to do is just repeat this vicious cycle of play a deck, find the meta deck, complain on Reddit, blame Vicious Syndicate, meta gets nerfed, rinse and repeat whenever they find another new deck, that just sounds like an awful time to me. Like, you gotta be able to at least acknowledge that you somewhat are the problem here, because you're the one that is gaslighting yourself and putting yourself in this camp that, oh, this is the vicious cycle of Hearthstone. There's no other way to enjoy Hearthstone. I can't make a meme deck and just try to do a goofy combo. No, I need to play every single game on ranked, and I need to play every single game against someone that's trying to actively kill me with a deck that's going to be really good. Like, you can pull yourself away from the competitive side and not care about rank. You can play a game of casual. You can play a game against your friends. You can play a game of Battlegrounds if standard is really that annoying. Hearthstone has so many options right now. You can play Tavern Brawl. You can play against your friends again. You can go into a Discord, meet someone new, be like, hey, I want to make some Hearthstone friends, and then just start playing for fun. There are a multitude of options when it comes to playing Hearthstone for fun, but if all you're doing is just queuing all of these different decks into ranked, trying to see if this deck can actually be meta or not, and you are met by all the demon hunters and all these people that are legitimately playing the best deck in the game, how can you be upset about that? Because Hearthstone ladder, it's not your friend. I keep saying this on my stream where it's like, oh, Clark, give your opponent a chance. No, I'm not going to give my opponent a chance. This is a life or death game for a number that'll go higher if you win. People are very competitive in this aspect, and why should I, person that's playing the best deck in the game, that wants the best rank in the game, why should I give a damn if you're going to play Hero Power Druid with the worst unoptimized build that I've seen on ladder, and then be so entitled that you think that you should win a game because the deck is just that bad? This is the problem more with balance than anything else when it comes to Hero Power Druid. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if you bring a strictly bad deck on the ladder, know that it's bad and expect it to win, that's the very definition of being entitled on ladder, to where, I'm sorry, competitive Hearthstone may be frustrating, but this is the nature of how competitiveness is actually this is just the nature of competitiveness. I don't know what you want from me. But sorry to go on that little rant there. It's just the point that I'm trying to make is that if you care about ranks, then you have to do the work in order to actually support them. And that's why I quit competitive Hearthstone, because of all the work that you have to put in just to maintain that stupid number that's on the bottom left of the corner. Like, it's not worth the mental headache if your goal is legitimately to have fun within Hearthstone. Point 2 wouldn't be a big deal normally, but as previously mentioned, it gets extremely hard to even homebrew at the start of an expansion because decks are so quickly refined and the competition becomes cutthroat way too fast. Anyway, yeah, that's my thought. Vicious Syndicate is bad for the game, and this is my personal opinion. It makes the game less fun to play, and it makes homebrewing to Legend less fun, and it makes every matchup feel the same because all people want to do is win. Yes, I know it's rank mode, and if you value winning over fun even at ranked, then your priorities are not aligned properly, in my opinion. Fun should be #1 priority. Thanks for reading, I guess. Tell me to get good and go tweet to Zacho that you defended his honor. If Zacho wants to reply here and tell me he makes the game healthier, I'd love to have a discussion with him. He makes this game a worse place to play him and his team. I'm sorry, but you are absolutely entitled if you are legitimately saying, yes, I know it's ranked mode, but if you value winning over fun, even in a ranked game, then your priorities are not aligned properly, in my opinion. Fun should be the #1 priority. Okay, so this is what's going on here. This person does not believe that hitting rank 1 legend or the grind that it takes to go from the bottom ranks all the way to the top cannot be fun. That is absolutely 100% a bullshit lie. And I'm just going to go ahead and just say the bullshit word because, oh man, Clark HELLSCREAM, why are you being so vile here? Why are you putting so much power onto your words? Well, because this person is strictly wrong. And the reason why they're wrong is because they're trying to be like, ooh, if you're going for rank 1, if you're only playing the competitive deck, then you're automatically not having fun. Every now and again, that might be true whenever you're trying to, go for the best ranks in the game, but there's a reason why people are going for the best ranks. They want to compete in tournaments. They want to have fun within the competitiveness in the game, and it's also like people like Insane, for example, have been booming in the Hearthstone scene because of how good they are. They are having fun by being very good at the game, and yes, there might be times where they lose their cool and they're like, oh my fucking god, how did this happen? This is so not fair. Hearthstone, blah, 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 blah. We all do that. But the difference between someone like Insane and the person that made this post is that Insane is having, well, maybe not exactly having fun, but he is having fun with the story, with the possibility of being the world champion. That is a fun idea to entertain, but you have to be the best in the goddamn world in order to do this. It's a title called World Champion. You gotta try hard for that. I legitimately tried to put myself within contention of this tournament, but I goofed around. I dicked around. I played goofy decks because I quote unquote wanted to have fun in Hearthstone. And yes, that's how I personally have fun. You got to make your own fun sometimes. But people like Insane do what they do because they have fun with the game and they want to be a competitive Hearthstone player. So to delegitimize people's goals like that is the problem that I have with this particular post, because this person thinks that there's only one way to enjoy Hearthstone, and that's by playing goofy decks that aren't on top of the meta. And I just 100% disagree with that entirely. But like I said at the beginning of this video, I found this post on Reddit and, well, this was just extremely funny to me. I'm probably going to start retweeting this just because I think it's hilarious. But Jay Alex ended up tweeting this, and there was one person in particular that had a really good comment. I mean, this is one that I'm going to highlight because I think it's true. 1, you're competitive and care about winning. 2, you dislike knowing what the most competitive decks are. Pick one. This person is trying to have it both ways, where it's like, I want to play Hearthstone for fun and play gimmicky meme decks, but I also want to be rank 1 legend. You can't really do that right now. And honestly, another person that puts this very perfectly is another world champion. The irony in this is something else. The more competitive you play, the less Demon Hunter you'll face right now. The top of the ladder is mostly Mage. And the reason why it's mostly Mage is because Demon Hunter is obviously the popular deck. Highlander Warrior is starting to emerge as the counter to this deck because it has armor gain and it has lethal options now. And then Mage is like a way of being able to counter the Demon Hunter and the Warrior. So that's why Mage seems to be on top right now, not because Mage is necessarily the best deck of the game, but because it beats the most popular decks. And that's how you have to play competitive Hearthstone. You can't just play the best deck over and over again when there are legitimate ways that some people may not realize that you can utilize to beat up on the best deck right now. I just agree with what Pocket Train is saying here. Like, when you are a competitive player, you do realize there is a best deck in the game, but usually, most of the time, unless there's some kind of really wacky power and difference, there is a way to beat the deck that's on top. But you gotta struggle through it. You gotta test some things. You gotta lose to the best deck every now and again in order to have this kind of thing happen. So I just really wanted to make a post about this because, one, my video editor is on vacation and I have a lot of game clips that I want to edit right now. But the other issue is I'm going to be making another video talking about Shopper Demon Hunter, because I do believe it is a problem, but that's a conversation for another video. I wanted to do that today, but after seeing this post, I absolutely had to say something, because it's like, I literally stopped playing competitive Hearthstone for a reason, and this person is somewhat going down a similar route, where like, oh, I don't want to play competitive Hearthstone because it's so unfun. But that's why you got to make your own goals. That's why you got to have friends to play with, or you meet people and you have these other situations to where you're not just playing in ladder. Do literally anything else besides queue a game in ranked if you're really trying to have fun and if you're really trying to test something new. My number one suggestion, go to a Discord, go to a Reddit post, be like, hey, I want to play some Hearthstone. I want to test some ideas that are not on ranked, and I want to get some opinions. This is how you can better enjoy the Hearthstone process, because if all you do is play by yourself, then of course the data websites are going to be what you go to for information. You don't have anybody else to talk to. You're not in streams asking questions. There are so many things you could be doing. I've already given like so many options. But in any case, that's the video for today. Let me know if you like this kind of content. I actually like this idea of kind of breaking down Hearthstone posts and really analyzing what they might be upset about. Because Hearthstone really is a game where you make your own goals, but if you don't complete those goals, it's very obvious that people don't have fun within the game. But the big question that you have to ask yourself is whether or not these goals are obtainable or whether or not they're healthy, because some people come up with the most unhealthy goals in Hearthstone. But regardless, that's my opinion. Yada, yada, yada. Like, favorite, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for making it to the end of this video, and we will see you for the next one.